Welcome. I'm Catherine, and this is Off Topic with Catherine, where stories spill over, lessons get learned, life gets messy, just like it should. Thank you for joining me today, and I know I look like Minnie Mouse. I went for a little walk today, and there was a child walking with their mother, and the child says, "Mommy, Mommy," and the mom says, "Yes, she looks like Minnie Mouse." I said, "You know what? You're right. I do. I'm in my Minnie Mouse dress today." Thank you for joining me today on Off Topic. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what I want to do, what I want to be when I grow up. I know I'm all grown up, but that's besides the point. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do that, siniyasas. Siniyasas, everybody. Some great coffee. I think it's my fourth one today, but whatever, I need it. Anyways, so what do I want to be when I grow up? Why did I choose this topic? Because we all ask ourselves, we asked ourselves what we wanted to be. I don't know, maybe that influence came a little bit from our parents, a little bit from our passions, a little bit from everywhere. Now, my parents, as I've mentioned many times before, came here because they fled extreme poverty. They left Greece because they had to, not because they wanted to. So naturally, what they constantly hoped for me and my brother, of course, was that we took the opportunities that were given to us. And of course, here we had a lot of great opportunities. Have, maybe still have. And so they encouraged us to stay in school and to just do something that will make our lives easier. And to them, easier was become a professional of some sort. Of course, I understand that. I understand that now. I understood that then. And this was not just my parents, but it was, I think, every Greek parent that I had met, whether it was family or friends or the community. And listen, my parents and their milieu of friends did not grow up, talking about finding their authentic self. Their authentic self was carrying water from the well back in the village. So that's what they described as their authentic self. So when they came here, they lifted up those sleeves and said, give me a job. Not an 8-hour job or a 10-hour job, but give me a job from dawn to dusk, where I can just work and just provide and do something that I can here that I didn't have the opportunity back home. So anyways, so it's natural that, growing up, when we would walk down the street, we'd meet other great families. Of course, my parents, when they'd introduce me or they'd introduce my brother, I don't think they would want to say, "Hey, here's Catherine, my daughter. She's a finger painter." I don't think so, right? Or here's my son. He's a sculptor. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Please, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I understand that, and it's not that they were controlling our future. It seemed like that at that time, and I felt like that for a very long time. And I shouldn't say it wasn't that they were trying to control our future, but they needed to do this. Now, what perhaps they didn't realize at that time, my parents and their community and their friends and everybody that fled poverty back then, because they all did the same thing. Trust me, nobody came here because they wanted to, dig deep into 20 feet of snow. But they didn't realize back then is that success isn't always found on the roads that everybody else takes. And that's something that I fully understand now, being older, 62. And knowing that creative and artistic careers are not less successful. Although sometimes we tend to measure that. I don't know who decided that. Was it, I don't know, a group of accountants that sort of said, hey, you know what, if you're not doing what I'm doing, if you're not dealing with money, and if you're not making an X amount, then, you know. We all want to make money. We all want to be successful. We all want to be able to live a very comfortable life. And I fully support education and school, and you know, educating yourself academically as much as you possibly could, and also socially, of course. But on that, I also want to mention that we also forget that most successful people that we do admire today are people that are, you know, in the arts, comedians, actors. Listen, I don't know, but I kind of feel that if I was walking back then down the street, and I met someone in the street, and you know, the parents said, here is my child, and they're striving to be the best comedian, I don't know, might have been frowned upon a little bit by everybody. But you know what, that comedian and that writer and that artist followed what was in their heart. And often passion has energy, it has stamina. And when you love something, you are going to try to be the best at it. You are going to get up on a Monday morning at 4 o'clock. Not when the alarm wakes you up, but way before the alarm wakes you up, because you just can't wait to get started. And hopefully you will succeed. Now, of course, you know, along the way, there's obstacles. We don't always end up becoming as successful as we'd like to be in what we choose to do. But should that stop us? I don't think so. I certainly don't think so, because you don't want to find yourself 20 years down the road saying, yes, I became this lawyer. And I was very successful. Not that there's anything wrong with lawyers, good for them. If you want to be a lawyer, that's fantastic. But if you don't, then, I don't know, talking about a different story. No. Trying and failing is actually succeeding, because you're trying. And somewhere along the way, we figure it out. We just have to keep doing it. And as we all know, if not all successful people, I think probably all successful people have failed hundreds and hundreds of times before they became the success that they are today in whatever it is that they're doing. Now, the other day, I was at the park. I went and I got myself a nice little vanilla ice cream, my favorite flavor. And I sat by the park. I sat at the park. And I was sitting on one of these benches, and this gentleman came and sat not far from me. And he opened up a book, and he's looking at his book, and it's a book about flowers. Now, how do I know this? Because we struck up a conversation. And I said, look, sir, I love flowers, but I know absolutely nothing about flowers. The only flower I know about is a daisy, because I love daisies, but that's the extent of, my knowledge about flowers. And he told me that he was a florist. I said, oh, wow, that's so exciting. And he says, well, why I brought up lawyers is because this gentleman was a lawyer for 20 some years. Now his dad was a lawyer, his grandpa was a lawyer, so it was a non-negotiable decision, whatever. This is what he was going to be. And he said to me he was a very good lawyer, and he was very good in school. He passed the exam first time, was successful, but he woke up literally every morning not liking what he was doing. And 20 years into it, he decided that he wasn't going to do this anymore. And he was going to do what he always wanted to do. He loved plants, he loved flowers. He says he knew more about, plants and flowers than anything else in his life. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, really? And he says, yeah. So I opened up a florist shop. And I said, well, how's that going? He says, well, it's been a couple of years now. And he says, it's great. I'm so successful. And he says that I create such bouquets and pieces that, I haven't seen anywhere else, because I love this so much that actually when I go to sleep at night, I just think of what bouquets I'm going to create, or types of flowers that I'm going to offer to my customers, or the ideas that I have coming out. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, wow. And he says, yeah. And I said, why now? And he said, well, I could have stayed in law probably for another 10, 15 years, and made tons and tons of money and never have to worry about that. And he says, I still don't worry because I'm very successful as a florist. But when would I ever get the chance to fulfill my dream? When? Never. So he says, I left it all. And when I shared this with everybody, they looked at me and thought I was out of my mind. And I said, well, do they still think that now? He says, probably, but I don't care. I just love it anyways. So there you go. So this is what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he did it. Now, what I wanted to be when I grew up was a gymnast, because my idol was Nadia Comaneci. But back then, that required a lot of time, a lot of commitment from my parents, which they couldn't offer because they were working all the time, and a car, which we never had. We never had a family car. We did everything by foot or by bus, which was great. That's why I love to walk now. And I couldn't become a gymnast, but I did a lot of gymnastics in my leisure time. So there, I made up for it. It was my complimenting moment. And that's about how we dream our dream, and hopefully all of us at some point become what we want to be when we grow up. So thank you for joining me today in sharing some of our dreams. And I hope most of you, if not all of you, have at least been able to live a little bit of them. And today's Greek coffee wisdom is this: don't be afraid to see where your passion takes you. Of course, again, we want to pay our bills, but we also don't want to underestimate the power of our passion and where it can take us, because sometimes choosing the safest road is not always the best choice. Now, I'm glad you joined me, and next time we're together, we are going to talk about something really, really scary. We're going to talk about change. That word, change. My gosh, change what? Just change everything. Now, thank you. And just remember that life's a little better when you go off